Rescue 8, Truck 6, Truck 3, Battalion 3, and the on-call inspector. 2303 West 46th Street, number 208.
Welcome to Sioux Falls Fire. I'm Tyler Churchma, and on this episode of Sioux Falls Fire, we step in on a structure fire at a church right before Christmas, so we'll see how the guys handled that situation. We'll also go and take a peek at a drill that all the firefighters on the department are going through right now, and also everything you need to know about smoke alarms and space heaters and so much more on this episode of Sioux Falls Fire.
So I'm here with firefighter Mike Olson, and he's going through our next drill out here at the training center. And this one's a mandatory drill that we do each year for firefighter survival. Mike, you just got done coming through it. What'd you think?
I thought it was an excellent drill. It reinforced that we need to be aware of what's going on and call maydays when they need to be called, communicate with your other partner when that needs to happen, and then just try to paint that picture of where you're at in a structure fire because of the low visibility.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, call the mayday when need be. What kind of things did you run into in here that you had to call them?
Sure. The first one we ran into was a simulated down firefighter that had fallen through the floor. Mm-hmm. We found a helmet. We found an SCBA. We knew at that point we found some debris, so we knew at that point we needed to call a mayday. The next one we ran into was both Tony and myself, our low alarm on our SCBA started going off. We weren't 100% sure where we were in the structure, so at that point we needed to call a mayday to make sure that we had air coming for us.
Okay. And when you got that air, what'd you end up doing?
When we got the air, we have our UAC, universal adapter for our SCBAs. Mm-hmm. So what happened is our air came. Tony turned around, he handed me the whip from the RIC pack, which is a spare SCBA bottle we carry. I connected to him, the RIC pack bottle and Tony's bottle equalized, and then Tony and I just flip-flop rolled it.
You continued on, went and had another mayday.
And basically after that too, we kind of slowed down a little bit because we knew we were low on air and we needed to conserve what we needed.
I got a collapse on me.
So we're out here at the training center in one of the houses that you've been through multiple times throughout your career. How did it change up a little bit on you?
Sure. Like you said, we've been through, in my almost 8 years, I've probably been through this house 100 times. And I was expecting things that weren't there. So that threw us for a loop. It kind of threw us for a loop where when our mayday went, because we weren't 100%, we had a pretty good idea where we were. Mm-hmm. We weren't 100% sure. We also came in at a different door than we normally come in when we train at this house. So Tony and I had to have that discussion. All right, we went in through the west door. Let's call that Alpha.
Yep.
When we gave our location to the battalion.
Okay, so they got you, kept you on your toes.
They kept us on our toes. Excellent. It was awesome training.
Good deal. Well, thank you very much, Mike, and good job with this. You did awesome.
Thanks, Chief.
We first pulled up to the structure. There wasn't much for smoke or anything showing on approach. We quickly did a 360 on the structure, went to the front side of the building, opened the door, and there was heavy smoke. We went in there to investigate. We saw through our thermal imaging camera that there was fire towards the back of the building. So we exited the structure, shut the door, came out, grabbed a hose, went to the back of the structure. We had to force a door to get closer to the fire. Kind of had to wind our way through a couple rooms to get to the seat of the fire. We eventually found it, very heavy smoke. Put some water on the fire. It was enough to quickly snuff the fire out. But after that, there was a large amount of smoke. So we had to open up a few doors, get some fans in, and clear it out. In this fire particularly, it's kind of challenging. It's a larger structure, it's a church. So right now, there's smoke coming from the roof area, but it's a large building, so we don't know if there's extension from the fire, like up into the attic. There's no easy access, so right now we got to go back in, we got to check it out, use our training, extinguish all the fire to make sure it doesn't flare up again. Right now we have a lot of trucks, a lot of fire personnel here at the scene, and some of us will leave as it calms down here, but we will have units here for numerous hours after this just to watch over the scene and ensuring scene safety.
With temperatures dropping, people are dusting off the old space heaters to stay warm, find another way to stay warm. But when using space heaters, there's a lot of precautions you need to use to make sure you and your family are safe. So today I got Fire Inspector Kurt Johnson here with me, and we're just got a space heater here. We're going to take a look at it, go over some of the features and some of the safety precautions for you. So Kurt, thanks for coming on again.
Yes, glad to be here.
So the space heater here, it's one of the newer ones here. Kind of explain to me some of the new features that they offer compared to the old style.
Well, with the newer heaters, they have more safety built in than you would with the older ones. This one here has a safety switch on the bottom here. So if it were to be on a flat surface and tipped over, that switch is going to go off and the space heater is no longer going to work. Also, the newer heaters have a thermal switch built in. If the heater were to be covered up, the heater would actually overheat and shut itself off. The problem with that is when the heater cools down, it's going to kick back on again. So the heater would sit there and turn on and off. That's kind of the way they run. That's the safety switches that they've built into the newer heaters.
Okay. So now when we plug these in, should we plug these directly into the wall, or can we use an extension cord?
The manufacturer's recommendation is not to use an extension cord. They do want it plugged directly into the wall, the socket right into the wall. But people don't always do what the manufacturer recommends. So we do recommend, if you do use an extension cord, we want you to use a heavy-duty extension cord, one that is rated for the heater. So many amps on the heater, and your extension cord would need to be able to handle so many amps.
Okay. So when we have this on the ground now, it's got the tip-over protection. That's going to keep us with the kids and the pets running by and stuff. Should we have like a clearance around it?
Placement of heater is very important in the home. You want the heater to be on a solid, flat surface. And then also with the heater, you want to be 3 feet away from the heat. As we always say as firemen, we want it to be 3 feet away from the furniture. We want it to be 3 feet away from clothing. And since you are plugging it into the wall, we want it to be 3 feet away from curtains. Anything that would burn, we want it to be at least 3 feet away from.
Okay. And so now, when you go to bed at night, is it safe to keep it plugged in since it does have all those safety features in, or should we unplug it?
You want to make sure that it is turned off for sure, but if it's unplugged from the wall, no energy can get to the heater to turn it on at all. You don't have to worry about it. You'll sleep better if it's unplugged. You won't have to worry about it.
Okay. So now back to that thermal protection. So you're saying if something would fall on it, like a coat or a rag or something, and it gets too hot, then it just automatically shuts off?
It will heat up itself, and then a switch will open up and turn the power off to the heater. But like I said, the heater will actually turn back on once it cools down. But it is a safety feature built into it, so try to prevent the fire from starting.
Okay. And probably if you're leaving the home too, you should probably unplug it or shut it off at least.
Anytime you're going to leave the home or leave the room actually for an extended period of time, we do wish that you would at the least turn it off, but you're always better off unplugging the energy from it.
Okay. Is there anything else that we should know about space heaters? Any other safety?
Just in general, keep the space heater 3 feet from anything that would burn. And then make sure you have smoke alarms in your home also that are in the working operating order.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time, Kurt. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
I'm here with firefighter Luke Smith, and thing that you guys were just working on is CPR on a downed firefighter. Talk a little bit about what you went through with that.
So we worked on effectively getting a firefighter out of their gear if they're having a cardiac event. So being that cardiac events are one of the #1 killers of firefighters, we want to work on saving our own so that we can help save other people. By getting them out of their gear quickly and effectively, we can get to the CPR sooner, which hopefully can save their life down the line.
So it's really kind of a, as a crew, you train, you work on it, so each person's got a certain thing to do, so you're ready in that situation, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We treat it really similar to a pit crew in a car race where everybody has a job. We can do that job as quickly and effectively, so the sooner we can do the CPR, the sooner we can hopefully get them out to the hospital and hopefully save their life.
All right, well, that sounds good. I thank you for that, and we'll let you go on with the rest of the drill today.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Thank
Chief.
you.
One of the easiest ways to protect you and your family in your home is to have working smoke alarms installed throughout your home. Smoke alarms are going to give you that early detection you need to get you and your family out safely in case there is a fire. Here today to talk to us about smoke alarms and what Sioux Falls Fire has to offer with smoke alarms is Fire Marshal Dean Lanier. Dean, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Tyler.
So, first of all, how important are smoke alarms to have in your home?
Smoke alarms are critical to home safety. They really are your first line of protection with regards to protecting your family and loved ones. So making sure that you have the right smoke alarms installed in the right locations and that they are maintained is critical to home safety.
Okay. And now when we're installing smoke alarms, where should they be installed in your home?
Well, I always advise people that there are two things to pay attention to when you're installing smoke alarms: where they don't belong and then where they do belong.
Okay.
They don't belong outside bathroom doors, and they don't belong right over your kitchen stove. Now, the reason that is because they will cause quite a few nuisance alarms if you put them in those locations. Smoke alarms have a difficult problem telling the difference between smoke and steam, so it's advisable that you make sure that they're at least 3 feet away from those openings. But where they do belong is everywhere else in your home. The places where you sleep, the places where you sit down and watch TV, the places where you gather around a table are critical locations that you want to make sure that you have a smoke alarm. And most importantly, in the bedroom.
Okay. So now if people have questions, can they call fire prevention up, and what services do we offer to the public?
Well, just to give you a little insight, we install about 500 to 700 smoke alarms every year. We do this as a public service to everyone within our community to make sure that they have the minimal amount of protection within their home. Now, some might think that they're putting us out by coming to their home and doing this installation, but we really encourage people to make use of this service. What we're teaching as an end result of this is how to put them in and how to maintain them and when to tell that there's something wrong versus when they're not. So it really is about public education and an opportunity for us to talk with you about how to keep your family safe.
Okay, so when we come over to your home, what type of smoke alarms? We got 2 different ones here. What are we installing in their homes for them?
So essentially what we're starting off is, first of all, with a smoke alarm and carbon monoxide dual detection system. What it provides for you in addition to smoke alarm protection is carbon monoxide detection within your home, which is critical, especially since all of our homes use natural gas for heat. Any device that uses natural gas for heat could produce carbon monoxide as a result of just not operating very well, the appliance itself. So this does a really good job of making sure you have the proper protection inside your home as far as that's concerned. Okay. Then the next step is to make sure you have a device that's going to last as well as provide great protection for your home. These smoke alarms are 10-year battery operated smoke alarms. They do a great job because not only do they have great detection, but they also have a hush feature on them. So if you do have an instance in which you burn something on the stove and it end up getting within the range of a smoke alarm, you could go and silence the detector.
Okay, now I heard you say they're a 10-year battery, so we don't need to change batteries out every year?
Absolutely. So that's a great feature of these dual alarms, is that having a 10-year battery life, not only does it last a long time, but it also tells you when it's no longer operable.
Okay.
So there's an alarm that comes from it when it's reached the end of its lifespan.
Right.
And that just tells you it's time to swap them out for another one.
Okay, so now let's say somebody built a new home. They already have smoke alarms in their house that are battery operated. Mm-hmm. Now, can we go there? Will we help them switch out their batteries for them? Do we offer that service?
We do offer that service as well, to make sure that they understand what to do in case the next time around when you need another battery swap. Some elderly citizens within our community will ask us to come out and provide battery swaps for smoke alarms that are 12, 15 feet inside their ceiling height. So those are areas in which we do provide that service of installing the battery. But again, it's always about education of the public, making sure that the homeowner understands what they have that's protecting them and how to maintain it.
All right, so when we're looking at some homes, they have the hardwired smoke detectors in them. They're plugged in. They have the battery backup. Do those need to be replaced so often, or how long is the shelf life on those?
Sure. So the nice thing about those hardwired detectors, it kind of indicates to me that they've been installed within the last few years. Your home may be a newer home. The good thing to know about those hardwired is they're being powered off your home's regular power system, but they also have a battery in them in case of power outage. So those smoke alarms should work regardless of whether you have power or not, and keeping a fresh battery inside of them is the best way to make sure that in case of a power outage, they'll still operate. We suggest swapping that battery out at least once a year.
And what about the detector? How long do those last?
The detector itself should give you a lifespan about 8 to 10 years. Okay. If you start having problems, nuisance alarms with them and problems like that, I would suggest going ahead and swapping it out. On every detector, the time it was manufactured is on the back. We encourage everybody that when you put new detectors in, go ahead and write the date of when it was installed on the back of them, so you have a good thumbnail sketch of when it was initially installed and when it's time to swap it out.
Okay. All right, if people need more information,
If people need more information about smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detection, or have any other questions about life safety in their home, feel free to call us at 367-8093, or they can reach us on our website.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time, Dean. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks.
We are here at Station 10 today to take a look at the apparatus they have. We've, in the past, have looked at engines, and today we're going to take a look at a tender. And to help us out with that, I have FAO Scott Menage here to help us out. Thanks for being here today, Scott.
No problem.
Now, behind us here, we have a tender. I know when I first started, they were called something else, tanker.
Yep, they were called tankers.
Okay, so what's the
previously.
difference between a tanker and a tender now? Why the name change?
They had to switch them because tenders are what we have here. The old name was tanker, which actually a lot of wildland firefighting now, their tankers are airplanes. So airplanes carry water, so they figured they should probably get the terminology switched so that way you could call for a different resource and not have one name that means the same thing.
Okay.
So,
All right, so today we're going to take a look at the tender. Now, like I said previously that we went over an engine before. What's the main difference between an engine and a tender?
main difference is water capacity. Your engines have typically 500 gallons of water. Our tenders, we have 2 of them. They carry 2,000 gallons of water.
Okay. And what would be the reason that we would call for a tender? Like,
if we're having issues in town with hydrants possibly, a lot of it is rural applications. We don't have hydrants or a water source readily available out in the rural area. So then we come and we have a drop tank, which is a 2,500 gallon tank that we can set up, looks kind of like a swimming pool, and then we can fill that up, and then we go to a fill site and then start what we call a water shuttle.
okay. All right, well, let's take a look at the tender, show us some of the stuff that's unique about the truck. And so looking at the cab of this tender here, it looks pretty familiar, same as the engine that we looked at previously. Is there anything extra in here, or is it about like the engine cab?
Everything is pretty similar. There's nothing specific to a tender that's really inside the cab.
Okay, you got your SCBAs, you got some tools in there.
Yep.
Your TIC, your thermal camera, and
Yep.
everything like that's all in there.
Correct.
Okay, and then moving on here, you got your pump panel, about the same as the engines as well?
About the same as the engines. The only difference between the engines and the tender actually is the foam system. They have an injection system, and we have, it's called an around-the-pump system.
Okay, so when we're talking foam, what are you guys using the foam for?
The foam is to basically, we always call it wet water. It helps to smother the fire, sometimes puts a layer over, and just kind of smothers the fire out.
All right, we'll move on down here. And what do we got going on in here?
We call this the driver's compartment. I have my gear and SCBA here. Because I won't be driving the truck with the SCBA on. We do carry a lot of adapters here, so this will slide out, and it helps us out in the rural side of things because sometimes they have different fittings size-wise, and we have everything we need that will help us out in that area too. So.
Okay. Over here, so you got chainsaws, and looks like you got a set of irons here as well.
Yep, forcible entry tools. We do carry our brooms and our shovel for our fuel spills, or small fuel spills.
Because just make it clear, this is your primary response vehicle
Yes.
as well, right?
Yep, this is a frontline apparatus.
Not just for the rural areas, but
Nope.
people might see this in town, in their local areas, going to fires and
Yep.
stuff like that as well.
Yeah, this one we actually take this to all of our medical and all of our fire calls.
Okay.
So, this one here, we have, I guess, our low-level strainer here. This is what goes on to the end of our hard suction that will go and we'll drop that into our 2,500 gallon drop tank.
Okay, so it's actually going to suck water out of the tank into the truck.
Correct.
Okay.
And that helps us, drafting is that process. And that's just when we don't have the availability of a hydrant.
Just so I'm clear, like after you said it holds like 2,500 gallons of water,
Yes.
the drop tank does. Do you have more water come? How do you get more water into that?
What we do is, like this big chute in the back here, that's a rear discharge, and it will allow us to, this will swivel. So we can set the tank up anywhere we need to, and then what we do is we basically empty our tank, our 2,000 gallons that we have, into that portable tank is what we call it.
Okay.
And then when we know that we are going to be going in an area where we need a lot of water and there's no hydrants, we will also call for the rural departments to come in and aid us in that. So and that's where the mutual aid comes into play.
Okay, so they'll actually be just pulling up and dropping the water
Yep.
into the tank for you as you guys are sucking out and using it.
Correct.
They're just, and that's what you call the shuttle, correct?
That's what we call the water
They're going
shuttle.
to a hydrant, the closest hydrant or water place, source they can find.
Yep.
Filling up, bringing it back, dropping it into your tank, and
Correct.
you guys are using it out of the tank.
Yeah. There are also different places where we can get our water from. We can also go from ponds, and we could actually pull it out of the river if we needed to.
Okay. And then obviously you got something on the end, like a strainer or something.
Yep.
Make sure if you are pulling out of a lake or a body of water,
Yes.
where you're not going to suck something up into the pump.
Yep, we actually have a what we call floating strainer. So it won't sit all the way on the bottom and suck up all that mud and dirt that we get around here.
Oh, okay.
So it will actually float on top, and then we can
Okay.
suction off that way.
All right, looks like it's fairly simple to deploy this on a
Yep.
fire scene. Doesn't take much time at all. A couple
Not-
firefighters can set this up. or-
2 firefighters can get this set up in a fairly short amount of time.
Okay. And so once you do have this set up, how long does it take to drop that 2,000 gallons into this tank?
I could drop 2,000 gallons into that tank in probably less than a minute.
Less than a
and
minute.
Yep, and have that all empty, filled, and then get to the fill site, and then filling this back up with 2,000 gallons of water could be done in around 3 minutes. Have it all filled.
Okay.
So,
So, I mean, when we're thinking 2,000 gallons, what's something we could compare that to so people understand 2,000 gallons is quite a bit of water?
it is. Your average, like hot tub, for instance, a 6-person hot tub is around 300 gallons. So looking at that, if you ever take a garden hose, like a lot of people do, and try and fill their hot tub with it, it takes a long time because you're not a lot of water.
Yep.
I could fill 6 hot tubs, and if they were all set up right, I could basically fill 6 of those within a minute.
Within a minute. So, yeah, you're
That,
moving a lot of water.
that's the amount of water
Yeah.
that you're dealing with. So,
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for your time, Scott. Appreciate it.
no problem.
Thank you for watching this episode of Sioux Falls Fire. I hope you enjoyed the show and you guys learned something new. If you want to learn more about Sioux Falls Fire Rescue, click the link below, and we'll see you next time.